Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our community who are involved in activities designed to promote good human relations. I am Michael Keller, the chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission and your host. The commission is a city board that seeks to promote equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guests today are Amy Davies, who is a program supervisor for Best Buddies Maryland, and Amber Yates, who is a program manager for the same organization. Amy and Amber, welcome to Annapolis Mosaics.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, let's start by asking, what is Best Buddies Maryland?
So Best Buddies, we are an international organization. We are a nonprofit global volunteer movement where we focus on enhancing the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We do that through three main pillars of leadership development, one-to-one friendships, and integrated employment. Okay, all right. How many people benefit from your organization in terms of just the statistics? That could be, you said you're an international organization. Look at it internationally, look at it nationally, and then look at it here in the state of Maryland. If you don't have the precise statistics, just come as close as you can. About how many people are actually served by you? Sure. So here in Maryland, it's about 55,000 people that we impact through our programs. Wow. Yeah, we're currently in 96 school chapters across the state. We have 25 trained leadership ambassadors, and we also have 8 jobs placements in integrated employment. Yeah. How long has Best Buddies been around, and what are some of the major highlights of the organization's history?
In Best Buddies Maryland, we've been around since 1995, but the entire organization started in 1989 by Anthony Shriver. It was a college organization, and then he kind of made it larger scale.
Okay. All right. You had mentioned that you do have 3 program pillars. What I'd like to do is to talk about each one in turn, let you sort of give our viewers a sense of what they're about. The first is the one-to-one friendships. How does that work?
So currently we have 7 schools in Anne Arundel County that have the School of Friendship program. So the one-to-one friendship, we have students that are matched with a disability and those without. And what we find is that one-to-one friendship is that it's more easy for them to approach another friend instead of that larger scale group. And that one-to-one friendship is very important to our organization because it is more important to have that one-to-one friend. Okay, all right. You also have something that I think involves citizens, and what's that about? I know you've got the one-to-one friendships in your schools, but you also have it at the college level too. Is that correct? Is there any differences between how it operates at the college level and in terms of the schools?
So at the college level, the way that it works, because typically colleges don't have students with disabilities who are attending the university. So we match our college students with, we call it a host site. Right. So it's organizations like the ARC, the Naval Academy here in Annapolis works with the Providence Center. Okay. All right. And we use individuals from that community resource to match with our students in that one-to-one friendship. Okay. And what's the citizens part of it? Sure, so that's our adult friendship program. Okay, tell us about that. Sure, so people can move up through all of our programs. So we start in elementary schools, they can go all the way up through colleges. After college, we give people over the age of 18 the opportunity to be matched in a one-to-one friendship as well. Okay. So we take 2 individuals from the community with common interests, and we match them in a friendship, just like we do at the school level. Okay, all right. There's also something you have which is called eBuddies. What's eBuddies all about? So eBuddies is similar to a pen pal service in a way, but it's emailing. Yeah. So if you sign up for eBuddies, you might be matched with a buddy in Alaska, and you form a friendship just as pen pals would, but over the internet. Oh, okay. How can families help with this program that you have? So we have a lot of large-scale events. This past weekend we had our Friendship Walk,
Okay.
Where we had over 1,400 people from across the state come out and walk for inclusion. That is a yearly event that we have, and family, interest and involvement in that is always crucial.
All right.
Success.
Okay. Well, let's move on to your second program pillar, which is integrated employment. What is that about?
So the way that our employment program works is we focus on the individual and what their needs are. So rather than putting them in, say, a sheltered workshop where there's a bunch of individuals working together, we personalize that employment opportunity so they have lifelong careers.
Okay.
An example of one of our placements would be with the Baltimore Ravens, a locker room assistant. We also have an individual working for the Washington Wizards, so they're very successful careers that our individuals have the opportunity to take on.
Okay. Well, what makes Best Buddies, in terms of this whole employment area, what makes Best Buddies unique from other job placement programs?
Yeah, so we stay with them throughout that process. So whether it's preparing for the interview or the hiring process and then when they get the job. So it's kind of a lifelong, as long as they have the career, that we're involved.
Okay. All right. Well, why should an employer hire a Best Buddies job participant?
I think that I speak for most of our employers that we have signed on when I say that our individuals are probably one of the best employees that you could have. They come to work happy, they want that job. The unemployment rate for a person with a disability is 85% right now. So for somebody with a disability to feel empowered to be in a position, they come to work ready to work. They're honored and proud of their position. So for an employer to have somebody like that on their staff, I think makes a big difference.
What type of support does Best Buddies provide to businesses and to employees who are hired through the program? What are your support mechanisms that you provide?
So as Amber said before, not only do we stay with the participant in job coaching, but we also do job development, and we can work with the company on working with somebody with a disability and what does that mean, and just assisting the employer with that process of what their job description would look like.
Yeah, what kinds of positions do people with developmental disabilities tend to hold?
So I think if you go out into the community, you'll find that most people are cleaning, they're washing tables, they're taking the trash out, they're janitorial work or cooking, things like that, whereas again, we really focus on the individual and what they see for their life. What do they want to be doing, rather than just doing what most people think that somebody with a disability should be doing.
Right. And you mentioned that the unemployment rate was, again, it was
85%.
I mean, I find that I heard you say that. I wanted to make sure that it was the unemployment rate is 85%, so that most of you've got a large pool of people that you're dealing with who probably could be contributing in some facet or some respect, but just aren't because, as you say, employers have been reluctant to hire them, or they don't have the skills in terms of seeking a job, in terms of how to obtain a job, or they just don't have the confidence in themselves. And can I presume that that Best Buddies Maryland works really hard to instill in your clients those kinds of beliefs in themselves that will enable them to become employed.
Definitely, and that's where that School of Friendship comes in, where it's so important because they're learning those social skills from their one-to-one match and from their peers, and they're gaining that confidence of that can translate later on into their career.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk about the third pillar that you have, and that's leadership development. And you've got two programs here. You've got a program which is called a promoter program, and then there's the ambassador program. What are each of those about?
Sure. So the ambassador program, it's a unique program that we offer at Best Buddies. We train our individuals with disabilities on advocacy skills and public speaking. So we work with them twice a year, and they write a speech to tell their story about how Best Buddies has changed their life. And then from there, we ask them to advocate for us at different events to share their story, and that might be getting more schools to sign on to have a chapter, at companies to get employers to hire somebody with a disability, and just really giving them that leadership opportunity to share their story.
Okay, we're going to take a break now, but when we return, I will be talking some more with Amber and Amy about Best Buddies Maryland. I'm talking today with Amy Davies and Amber Yates, who are employees of Best Buddies Maryland. And we're going to be continuing the dialogue which we're having. Best Buddies established a 2020 initiative. What does that involve, and how are you progressing with it?
So the 2020 initiative is to be in all 50 states by the year 2020, and then also 100 countries, right? Correct? Yeah, sorry. So 100 countries as well. So that is to have a program started in each one. So whether it's School of Friendship, Jobs, or Citizens, just expanding our program on that scale.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned that Best Buddies is an international organization, and it's a national organization as well. So it's got lots of chapters, as you've mentioned, around the country and in the world. Let's focus on the Maryland organization. I think that's where our viewers are going to be most interested. What does the Maryland organization do? What do you actually do that, in terms of the programs that you provide? We've already talked about the program pillars and that. Are all these organizations around the country, around the world, are they all structured exactly the same? Do you do the same thing? Or are there things that you do here in Maryland that would distinguish you from, say, some of your counterparts across the country or around the world? There's some special things that you do.
Sure. So we're actually, we're a small state, but we have all of our programs, which is very, I don't want to say rare, but it is unique. There is not many states that have an office that also have all of the programs. We have everything from elementary, middle, high school to colleges, promoters, citizens, e-buddies, jobs programs. So that is something that makes Maryland unique, is we have the opportunity to provide all of our programs across the lifespan for an individual here in Maryland.
Okay, and most of our viewers, virtually all of our viewers, except those, for example, who would look at the program online, because we do have the program on streaming video. But I would say the vast majority of people who will be watching live in the city of Annapolis or in Anne Arundel County. What does Best Buddies Maryland provide in Annapolis or in Anne Arundel County? If there's someone who would be interested in getting involved with the program, what could they expect to find in terms of programs or services here in Anne Arundel County or in the city of Annapolis?
So my role as program manager is to oversee the schools in Anne Arundel County. So right now we have 7 schools in Anne Arundel County. We have 5 high schools, 1 middle school, and then the Naval Academy. We're hoping to expand within the year, but for that process, it's when they go to the high school, that's when they're kind of initiated into the program, or at the middle school.
Best Buddies has a large network of supporters. Could you tell us about them and how they contribute to the organization?
Sure. So some of the other organizations we work with, they have similar missions to ours, like Special Olympics. We also work with the Lollipop Kids Foundation in Montgomery County. Just different organizations that have a similar mission, all working to make the lives of people with individuals with disabilities better.
And specifically in Anne Arundel County, we're very close to Chloe's Cause, as well as a lot of community events. So some of our kids go out to senior centers to work with them and kind of show our mission in the community.
Okay, all right. Could you share with our viewers any stories about the work that you do with Best Buddies Maryland that are especially meaningful to you? Obviously, you've been involved with this organization. What do you feel most proud about? What stories could you have about any interaction that you have been involved with personally, or that you know about, that really gives you the sense of, gosh, we're really making a difference. This is really, really neat. I really feel proud to be part of this organization. Any stories you can share with us?
So I was actually part of the college program, and then that led into me fulfilling or going for a career in Best Buddies. But I was matched with my buddy for 4 years, and he's still my best friend. We've been through everything together, and even just last month his mother passed away, and I went to the funeral with him, and it just meant so much to be by his side during that. So our program's unique because it's a friend for life, and the meaning and the friendship behind it is something that we really put focus on.
How about you, Amy?
So very similar to Amber's story, I was also matched in the programs, and my buddy from college, his name is Alan, and he and I are also still very close. But I'll never forget the first time that I called him. It was his first year being matched in the program, and his mom was kind of shocked that somebody was calling to talk to him because he had never had a phone call outside of his family calling for him. So she was just taken back in the terms that somebody was calling to be his friend. So at the age of 26, to get your first phone call really stuck with me, and it's something that I'll never forget. But now, I mean, he has his own cell phone. I'm lucky if I get a phone call. He is Mr. Social Butterfly. So that's just something that really sticks with me.
Yeah. Does Best Buddies make use of volunteers?
Yes. To flatly put it out. So
tell us how.
This past weekend we had our friendship walk. We had almost 150 volunteers come out to help us with that event and organizing. And then also with those events, we have school events, community events that we're always looking for volunteers for as well.
And then likewise in our Citizens program, if somebody's interested in having a friend of their own through our programs, we do have quite a long wait list of individuals with disabilities who are waiting for a friend, who are over the age of 18. They kind of transition out of the school, and then they don't have anything to do per se. So if somebody was interested in volunteering over the age of 18, we have a pretty lengthy wait list of people that are waiting for a friend. So that's always a way to volunteer.
Yeah. Well, an organization such as yours, which has tremendous sweep both locally as well as nationally, obviously needs to have a certain base of funding in order to be able to support its work. From what sources does Best Buddies Maryland derive its money? How do you keep the organization going financially? What's your sources of funding?
So I would say it's a mix of both state funding that we apply for yearly, We have private grants and donors that we get money from that support specific schools or programs. And then a big pool of our money come from our large events, like our Friendship Walk that we just had.
Yeah.
This year we are fortunate to raise $242,000 for our organization, which will support our programs
impressive.
over the course of the year. But every year we do we rely on our private donors who generously give to us to continue our programs.
Yeah, yeah. What would you cite as the greatest accomplishment that Best Buddies has, or accomplishments that Best Buddies has been able to do while you've been involved with the organization?
Well, on a larger scale, I think that our numbers show for themselves how many states we're in now and how many programs and how many people we're impacting all over the world. But going out to schools every day, I could see the impact even just within the school.
Right.
There's one student not eating lunch alone. There's a student that has someone to call on the weekend. It's those little impacts that we see every day that is truly making the difference that adds up to the greater picture.
Mm-hmm. And what would you cite as being the greatest challenges that the organization faces?
I would say that, our overall vision is to put ourselves out of business, which sounds silly, but we envision a world where programs like ours aren't needed, that people with disabilities are just integrated naturally. But, as our program has been around, that is something that is happening. We're slowly putting ourselves out of business, which is a challenge, but it's also a good thing. It's what we want. So,
Could you elaborate on that a little bit about you're seeing progress toward it? I mean, there is tremendous discrimination in our society toward people who have mental disabilities. I mean, that actually used to exist with people with physical disabilities. I'm just old enough to remember, before the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, people who faced physical, much less mental disabilities, were just terribly discriminated against. What progress have you seen in terms of the attitude of people toward people who are developmentally disabled? I can remember, for this, I have a personal thing that in my job before I retired, we had individuals from a local organization who used to clean the building who were developmentally disabled. And they were just wonderful employees, just absolutely wonderful employees in terms of getting the work done, and very easy to interact with. But there was a time in which those individuals would not have been allowed to have that kind of job because there would have been a feeling of discrimination as to what are they going to do. What progress have you seen over just the time that you've been involved with Best Buddies in terms of changes in the perspective and attitudes that people have toward individuals with a developmental or mental disability?
Sure. So I think that just overall, people with disabilities are viewed as equals now. They're walking the halls with our students. They're out in the workforce with us every day. And overall, I think they're just viewed as another person, working alongside of them, going to class with them. And I would like to say that Best Buddies has had a great impact on doing so. I think being in the community and having awareness like we do has given people the understanding of what inclusion really means.
Amy and Amber, I am certain that many of our viewers are going to want to learn more about Best Buddies Maryland and possibly volunteer for the organization. What is the best way that they can reach you? They can reach or get in contact with the organization, or if they want to learn more about the organization.
Sure. So we have a website.
Okay.
It is bestbuddies.org/Maryland.
Okay.
So they could check out our website. Our contact information is listed on there as well if they want to reach out to us.
Okay. Okay. Could you repeat that website again for the benefit of our viewers?
Sure. It is bestbuddies.org/Maryland.
Thank you for viewing our program today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, jot down the information on your screen. You can reach us at 410 263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov. Or check out our page at the City of Annapolis website. Go to www.annapolis.gov, click on City Government, then Boards and Commissions, and scroll down to the Human Relations Commission page. And always remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the seas like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters."